Every public body shall give notice of the date, time, and location of its meetings other than special, emergency, or continued meetings at least 3 working days in advance by posting such notice on its official public government website, if any, placing such notice in a prominent public location at which notices are regularly posted, and placing such notice at the office of the clerk of the public body, or in the case of a public body that has no clerk, at the office of the chief administrator. Reasonable notice under the circumstances of special emergency or continued meeting shall be given contemporaneously with the notice provided to the members of the policy body conducting the meeting. Ms. Tanner? Has today's school board meeting been properly certified? This is a special call meeting.
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair, on Wednesday, February 5th, 2020, notice was provided fulfilling all criteria of VA Code Chapter 37.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Tanner. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's proceed with the roll call.
Yes. Basine? Here. Campson? Here. Clanton?
President.
Smith? Here. Martin? Here. Jordan?
Here.
Gabriel?
All right, can I have a motion to enter into closed session?
Madam Chair, I move that we enter in closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, we will limit discussion to approximately 1 minute. To begin with, Mr. Jordan.
Is that for the entire group, or is that just for me?
No, it's for the whole group.
I mean, I'm saying collectively for 1 minute, or each person gets 1 minute?
Everyone will get 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I may need a little more, so I hope you'll be considerate of my request.
Let me start the clock real quick. All right. Just going to keep us on target, that's all.
That's fine.
Okay.
So I wasn't, as you all know, I wasn't at the last meeting, and so I was trying to find out, Dr. Gabriel, I reached out to you to see if I get an update at the last meeting. Wasn't able to catch up with you. What I understand is at the last meeting, you all had a discussion around some comments that I made at a public meeting during board governance training. And I just want to say, if that's the case, and if the intent is to have further discussion on those comments that I made at the public meeting, then I would like to have that discussion in public. Because I don't think that the comments that I made in public were understood in its full context. So if there's some concern about that, and if it's having some impact on other work of the division, then I think it'd be appropriate to hear what the concerns are and have an opportunity to discuss those in public, as I originally made the comments in a public meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other items? Okay, Ms. Tanner, if you could please call the roll.
Basine?
Excuse me. So can you clarify whether or not we'll be discussing anything that I made in public?
The motion to go into closed session will be to discuss matters regarding the superintendent search.
I understand that, but I just want to make sure, because if
The resolution.
if there are some items
There's
that
a
come up
resolution,
that were
right?
discussed in public, then,
Resolution.
I'm sorry? I can't hear what's,
No, we need to hear the resolution. My apologies. Not, so we know what we're talking about.
oh, she hadn't read the
We
resolution?
hadn't read the
Oh, I'm so
resolution.
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, the call was for discussion, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, that,
Oh, okay, I'm
so
sorry.
if the clerk
Fine.
could read,
Okay.
could
Okay,
read
read
the
it.
resolution.
Move that members of the school board go into a closed session for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for A, discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for employment and assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of the Norfolk Public Schools pursuant to subsection 1 of the above cited code section. The subject of this portion of the session are discussion of the appointment of particular candidates, their circumstances, and possible contract provisions to fill the vacancy in the office of superintendent. B, consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members concerning actual or probable litigation or specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsections 7 and 8 of the above cited code section. The subjects of this section of the motion are consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff members as needed concerning the matters identified above. Basine?
So, excuse me, so can I get some clarity now, please?
So, Mr. Jordan, the motion to enter into closed session covers items regarding the superintendent search. The superintendent search, as we all know, is a closed process that we all agreed to. I cannot guarantee that information that you shared in a governance training won't come up. However, I do believe that the most important pieces of the discussion that we're going to have today center specifically around the superintendent search. So,
Well, just for a couple of things. One, I think the discussion of candidates definitely is closed process. The search itself is a combination of open and closed. If at such time that the topic comes up around items that I shared in an open meeting, then I just want to say I think it's appropriate to have that discussion in open session. So I'm going to object if it gets done in closed session. I will ask and request that we come out of closed session and discuss it in open session.
okay, noted.
I have a comment about that.
Ms.
So,
Martin.
I wish you were here last.
Yeah, I wish I was
last
too.
Wednesday.
Sorry
I know
about
you
it.
were sick,
Yeah.
but, because I don't see how we could have an open discussion based on a closed session meeting without compromising the executive privilege of a closed session.
Okay.
Well, let me just
All
say,
right.
if at any point in the closed session, any board member feels that we're beginning to speak about things that are more appropriate for an open session, that board member can exit the session or remain and then vote not to certify it when we come out and at the end.
Okay,
And of course, you have to state on the record all the reasons that you're not certified.
okay, all right.
Then that just makes me ask one real quick question. So
Okay.
if we started, if we're having the discussion in the closed session, this is just for my own clarification of how it works legally, and then Mr. Jordan says, well, that's what I was talking about, can we then move it in, I mean, I guess
Well,
I'm
as
not
your
even-
lawyer, if that comes up in the closed session,
Then we
I will
can
give you a
then-
legal opinion as to whether I think the matter is appropriate for discussion in open session.
And then we could continue
As a
on
board, we can
as a
make that
board.
decision.
And then we
as a
could
board.
continue on, and then we could come out and then
And at the
finish the
end,
discussion,
when the
then have an
board
open session.
certifies that the session was done properly, it's each board member's right to refuse to vote on that. And if you choose not to, by law, you must state on the record,
Oh, okay.
and it must be included in the minutes, your reasons for refusing to certify the meeting.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Just wanted to
Okay.
make sure I was understanding it appropriately. Thank you.
So may I ask one legal question as well? So generally speaking, oh, I'm sorry.
I saw Tanya's hand up.
Well, I think I had it up before he asked the second part of that, his
Okay.
clarifying question, so.
All right,
So just generally speaking, so if there's a discussion that takes place in an open meeting, and then we go into closed session,
If the
and,
discussion was inappropriate for the open meeting in that it was a personnel matter, then potentially the fact that it was wrongly discussed in open session previously would not make it unavailable for an executive session discussion now. I don't know what exactly is going to come up other than what's indicated in the motion.
Okay.
I will say that I've heard things that I think raise both personnel issues and legal issues such that the anticipation is that the discussion will be appropriate entirely, all of the discussion for executive session. But again, it may, depending on what comes up, there may be a point where we can revisit it in the course of the session.
okay. All
Madam
right.
Chair, call the question.
Ms. Tanner, if you could please call the roll.
Okay. McKee?
Aye.
Hampson? Aye. Clanton?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Martin?
Aye.
Jordan?
nay.
Gabriel?
Aye. Okay. We will now enter into closed session.